You just saw me feed 5,000. Now, why is it that your faith hadn't developed from that? Why is it that your faith hadn't grown? Why is it that your faith hadn't got strong enough to handle this situation in the middle of this storm? The Lord is saying to us today, when we go through, if we're not prepared, say, why is it that your faith is little? So Peter had faith to begin to walk on the water, but he was distracted by the wind. We heard that wind. The wind can sound. You know, sometimes people say in a tornado, it sounds like a train. When you're in the middle of a tornado, that's a loud, it's coming down like chugging like a train coming. And when Peter heard that, the water was on the boat, the water was splashing up on the boat, the waves were going, but yet he was walking on the sea. But he lost the faith and he began to sink. He began to sink. But Peter did know this, call the Lord. Oh, when you get in trouble, call on the Lord. So Peter called, Lord, save me, save me. Now what Jesus did to those men, his disciples and Peter, he let them know that your faith has got to be developed. Your faith has got to get better, grow from where it is now. So little faith is undeveloped faith. Our faith must be developed. Our faith should grow. Our faith should be developed. It should be improved. It should get stronger. We should advance. And we should reach a maturity in our faith. And this is what Jesus said. Why aren't you more mature? That's what he was saying. Why aren't you more mature to believe and trust in God? Out of all the things that you have seen, as you go through life, all you've seen God do. You'll see God work things out. You'll see God work in your life. You'll see God brought you out, change your life. But are you going to allow him to let your faith develop and go and grow as it should? The underdeveloped faith meant that their faith was not matching with the circumstance. Their faith was not enough to handle the circumstances that they faced. So it wasn't, and faith did not meet the requirements. It was less than what was needed. So what the Lord is saying, develop your faith. Our faith must be developed. And in the Greek he meant, why is your faith underdeveloped? Why you haven't learned anything? That's the other way you can put it in that way. What, you haven't learned anything from what we've been through? You haven't learned anything from when I cursed the tree? You haven't learned anything from feeding 5,000? Why is it that your faith has not developed any better or any stronger? So we must maintain our faith. We must maintain a high level of faith when we serve God, because we want to be ready for the storm. This Jesus was saying to them, you got to live this, you got to do this on a daily basis so you'll be prepared when the storm comes. Don't wait till the storm comes and start praying. I'm not going to pray today, things are going good. Time trouble comes, then I start praying. That's not the way to prepare. That's not the way to prepare. Faith coming by hearing, hearing by the word. So we got to fill our lives up with the word of God. And Jesus was saying, you should have learned from those things that you saw. You should have learned from those things. Peter had faith to step out. Now, underdeveloped faith is faith that you have faith enough to start out initially, or you have faith to get to a certain point. But Jesus said he wants your faith to be mature. So as we look at this, Peter was okay until he took his eyes off of Jesus and started looking at what was going on around him. So your faith will be underdeveloped when you live by circumstances. He looked and saw what the wind was doing. He put his focus on that, and he didn't focus in on that he was walking on the water to Jesus. And he panicked. Fear. Fear is an enemy to our faith. We must grow our faith. Now, in Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11 through 13, now Apostle Paul spoke something similar in his teaching, of whom we have many things to say and are hard to be uttered, seeing ye are dull of hearing. He said, y'all, your faith is not to the degree to really handle everything I need to say. For when the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need of one to teach you again. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. Think about this. When Jesus was saying your faith is underdeveloped. Who want to hear Jesus say your faith is underdeveloped? That means that I'm not growing as I should. So here they are out in the midst of the sea. And when the storm comes, the storm really tells where your faith is. When the storm comes now, it's something to distract you. And that's what happened. They got distracted. Peter got distracted even after he recognized Jesus and began walking on it. He still got distracted right looking at Jesus. He got his eyes on what was going on. He got his eyes on the wind and the waves. And he said, come, and Peter come down out of the ship, and he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Yet he had faith. But the wording that Jesus used here when he said that, underdeveloped faith, not that you have no faith, but your faith is underdeveloped, it's not where it should be. Your faith needs to mature. You should mature. So he began to walk to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. Our faith protects us from fear. If he hadn't got afraid of that wind, Peter could have kept walking. But he sank and he cried out, Lord, save me. When Jesus demonstrated here, even if your faith is underdeveloped, if you call on Jesus in the midst of what you're going through, he will come to your rescue. He came to Peter's rescue when he called out to him, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore did thou doubt? Why did you doubt? Have you seen enough to have faith? Haven't you been paying attention? Haven't you noticed anything? Have you been taken in or learning from what you have seen? Haven't I always told you to believe? This was a mild rebuke. And this is the kind of way he was talking to them, as if you are not catching on like you should. You should have had the faith. So he was talking about underdeveloped faith. Now we know these men later on got mature faith, because these men became the backbone of the church. These men became the apostles that taught, that were willing to die for the gospel. So they did go from an undeveloped faith to a developed faith to a mature faith in God. At least Peter was the only one that did have the faith to step out in that water. Nobody else got out in that water. Peter come out that boat. So if that's Jesus, I know if that's Jesus said it, I can walk on that water. If he tell me to come, I'm going. He just made a mistake to pay attention to the other things. His faith. If he had kept the faith, he would never sink. God is calling for us to develop our faith. God is calling for us to go higher. He's calling for us to go further. He's calling for us to learn. He's calling for us to learn from the things we see, the things that we do, from what the Lord have done. We sing those old songs. Look where the Lord have brought me from. He brought me out of darkness into the marvelous light. When I look back over my life and I think things over. See, all those songs, I've been through enough. Songs say, you can't make me doubt him. I know too much about him. All those songs bring that to you. No, I've been through enough to know this too will pass. See, all those songs that inspire us to know that our faith will take us through. So their faith was underdeveloped. You have an underdeveloped faith. You believe in me, but I'm going to give you a mild rebuke that you're going to have to pep up. Oh yeah, God's saying to us today, we get this pep up. He didn't say you were lost. He didn't tell them they were lost, but he did say your faith is underdeveloped. You should have seen enough. You should have known enough to be further on than where you are. We must maintain. See, it's about maintaining the faith in God. So when God has blessed us and when God has brought us through things, he said, learn from them. Then you see 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread feed 5,000, Peter. Your faith should have been further along, Peter. You should have thought this was nothing for Jesus to stop this storm, to save us in the middle of the storm. In one passage, Jesus was down in the bottom asleep. He was on the boat already, and they were in the storm. And they feared. After seeing the things, after going through the things that they had seen that Jesus had did, God is concerned about our faith because we live by faith. Our life is based on faith. So we cannot stay at an underdeveloped faith, but we got to get a mature faith in God. So God can use us and we can be blessed through him. Thank God for the word today. Thank God for the word that lets us know that we can go to maturity in our faith, that we don't have to be underdeveloped, but we can have a faith that will meet the challenge of life. Because one day, you're going through the storm. God bless you.